Welcome back to Offroad Outlaws, y'all, and in this video, we're going to be jumping into some stuff that I have received requests to talk about in the comments down below. Now, this map that we're on right now is a really sick map, although I feel really bad about the fact that I recorded this gameplay a little while back, and I do not remember the name of this map, although I do know that it is made by a regular to this channel, and I want to say a massive thanks to the map creator for suggesting it in the comments below, because that's how I found it originally, but for the life of me, I cannot find either their original comment or what the name of the original map was, because I didn't record the actual name in the menu. So again, my greatest apologies for that. I will make sure to actually record the name of the map next time so I remember. But without any further ado, let's dive into the topics of this video. Now, a lot of people have been asking me to talk more about the next Offroad Outlaws update now that the latest update for No Limit Drag Racing 2.0 has been released. And I do want to say that before I talk about any further speculations around the next Offroad Outlaws update, I do want to kind of approach this a little bit from a cautionary position, because I think it's a little bit dangerous to get into the habit of going, okay, this one update released, and now we instantly need to switch our focus to the next update for this other game, because I see that happen a lot, and it almost creates this odd sort of vacuum where there's all this interest in the lead up to the update, and then once the update releases, people are like, oh, well, the anticipation is gone now, so now that it's out, we don't care anymore. And it creates a very odd thing, and I'm like, don't get me wrong, go enjoy the new No Limit Drag Racing 2.0 update, because it is a great update, it's a blast to play, and there's a bunch of really fun new vehicles to enjoy, and I have personally been having a blast with it. Now, with that being said, though, let's cautiously proceed into our discussions about the next Offroad Outlaws update. Now, one thing I would love to see in the next Offroad Outlaws update is the new OBS from No Limit, from the latest No Limit update. I would love to see that in the next update for Offroad Outlaws, both as a single cab and as a quad cab. Can you imagine how sick that would be? That would be incredible. Now, obviously, I have no idea if that's actually going to happen or not, because we have no confirmations thereof. However, I think it is, I won't say safe to assume, but I think it's not necessarily the worst thing to hope for, because, you know, you consider the fact that No Limit and Offroad Outlaws are developed by essentially the same team under the same umbrella, and we've seen them share assets amongst the two before. Now, I highly doubt that we will ever see any kind of dragsters in Offroad Outlaws, because it doesn't really make sense, but I figured I would mention it since it was in, or since they were in the last No Limit update, or the latest No Limit update, and I'll probably get a question or two about that, like, do you think that there's going to be dragsters in the next Offroad Outlaws update? Probably not. I would honestly be shocked if it was even remotely teased, so it's definitely not something I'm going to either focus on or hold my breath for. But at the same time, stranger, wilder things have happened amongst the course of these games' lives. Now, on the community side of things in Offroad Outlaws, I've definitely seen it take I would say an interesting adjustment, right? Because when there isn't an update for an extended period of time, I feel like you end up getting a couple of different, not necessarily outcomes, but the game develops with a few different aspects that may not have been expected, right? So you get some players that dive deep into the map creator, and that allows us to see maps like the one we're seeing now, except, well, ignore the fact that I was on my lid for a moment because I don't know how to drive with a trailer. Well, I do, just not very well in Offroad Outlaws. Driving in Offroad Outlaws with a trailer is a little bit, it's a little bit strange at times, and it also kind of likes to, you know, topple you over at times. But either way, we're not gonna dwell on that. Now, whereas some players will use the time between updates to dive into the map editor or continue to refine their truck builds, other players will see the, you know, the lack of I don't want to even say lack of updates, but like they will see the fact that the game hasn't been, you know, majorly updated in a while, and they will consider that a quote-unquote lack of content and will just stop playing the game and will say, well, I'm not going to play it again until it gets another update. And I think you know, I know I'm going to derail a little bit here, but I think that gets into a slightly more philosophical discussion almost around, like, because here's the thing, right? I remember growing up before the time of, you know, live service games. I remember growing up before the time of just live service gaming in general. And I remember, you know, a game even getting the slightest update or the slightest DLC was like this huge deal. It was this massive occasion. Whereas now, I feel like updates are one of those things where, you know, you see people some people actually get upset if a game doesn't get updated on a super consistent basis. And I mean, like, you know, we're talking for some games, every couple of months, you'll see people absolutely freak out if a couple months have gone by and the game hasn't received another update and another update and another update. And I think that in some ways, it's a little bit of an effect of just the way live service gaming works now, because it's been so, there are so many games that do it that people get used to that update structure. And I remember, you know, the definition of what was at one point, you know, a quote-unquote dead game is a little bit of a different definition than what people will say is a dead game now. I'm using air quotes. You can't see them, but I'm using them because, you know, back in, let's say, I don't know, like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, a quote-unquote dead game was usually just something that nobody was playing. But now I see a lot of people use the term dead game, air quotes, to describe a game that isn't receiving super consistent updates, especially like super consistent live service updates. And, you know, they will take the lack of constant updates as almost like a signal to not play the game anymore, or almost like it's not cool to play the game anymore. Like it's almost only cool to be playing the game if it's receiving constant updates. And I struggle with that because it's a little bit of it's almost like, well, if this game isn't, you know, getting constantly updated, is it, you know, actually an interesting game to be playing, or is it a cool game to be playing? And I'm like, I mean, I feel like that should be based off of how much you enjoy the game itself and not necessarily based off of just solely if the game is getting constant updates or not. And I know that we've gotten really, like, super philosophical with this update conversation. And, you know, feel free to leave any of your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Like, I mean, if you think I am completely wrong and, you know, you think I'm a complete blithering idiot, let me know in the comments down below. I'm literally open to all of the discussion about the topic because I'm genuinely curious in terms of talking about it. But, you know, and again, if that's the way you feel, I completely get it. You know, we all have different opinions on topics like this. And heck, even if you want to say, well, you just don't understand because you're old, I mean, you know, maybe. I get that too. But diving back into it, I am sure that now that the latest update for No Limit has been released, I would hope, and I would cross my fingers and hope for the best, that we will see more hints as to when we could see the next Offroad Outlaws update fairly soon. However, I do want to stress that that is not any kind of confirmation whatsoever. I mean, we could, who knows, we could see them tease the next Offroad Outlaws update, you know, sometime in the next couple of weeks. Or we could see them tease it in the next couple of months. We have no idea. Like, or it could be a totally different amount of time than that. Who actually knows? You know what I mean? Nobody knows until the developers drop that information. And I cannot stress this enough when it comes to these games. If you see someone saying they have quote-unquote insider information, but the devs have not said anything, 99.9% of the time, or generally 100% of the time, that is entirely fake and false. So anytime you see someone say that they have quote-unquote insider information, take that with a grain of salt and be very skeptical. I do see sometimes people saying, well, I heard from so-and-so that the update was going to come out on this day and it was going to feature this, this, and this. Again, unless you've heard it from the developers or from a source like my channel that only reports official release information from the developers, be very wary of what you see out there in regards to these updates. Now, I know that in some ways we did go a little off topic in this video, but I feel like at the same time, it was still on topic. It was just an exploration of a different type of topic that we don't really talk about in relation to this game and this series very often, because I see a lot of comments out there that I do address, but I also see a lot of others that are a little bit trickier to address because, you know, sometimes they are ranty comments, or sometimes they are just, you know, comments that are from people that are angry, like saying things like, you know, they'll never update this game anymore. Why does anybody even play it? Or, you know, if they were gonna update it, they would have said something by now. And I'm like, you know, I don't know if they come from a place of people that are genuinely mad, or if they come from a place of people that are like, I'm gonna be mad about this because I think it's gonna get them to say something sooner. I don't really understand where those comments come from, but I still wanted to sort of explore and dive into that topic because I think it's interesting. But if y'all enjoyed this video, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see y'all next time.